Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Jason Grier. Jason is the Executive Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Reputation.com. He leads Reputation.com's customer loyalty and growth initiatives as Executive Vice President and Chief Customer Officer. He's the former Senior Vice President of Global Support Operations and Chief Customer Officer at McAfee, where he spent more than 10 years. While at McAfee, Jason built a reputation as an industry leader in customer support and operations. His teams were honored with a number of awards, including the Intel Quality Award, a prestigious honor for outstanding quality and personification of Intel's values, and the highest team honor given at Intel. His teams also won 2 TSIA Star Awards, 2 Service and Support Professional Association Awards, and a Stevie Award for Innovation in Action. Before his time at McAfee, Jason held executive-level positions at Sutherland Global Services and Covad Communications. So without further delay, welcome, Jason.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right, Jason. So I know I read your bio and it says theoretically what it is that you've done and your history, but we always like our guests to share with us from their perspective, not something formal that's written in a bio, but just tell us a little bit about your journey, how it is that you were able to get into these different roles, and of course, more importantly, what led you to the role that you are currently in today.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think anybody that's being honest when they talk about their career, it has to say that a lot of it is luck and a lot of it is timing and a lot of it is hard work. But I was coming around at a time when the call center world was really beginning to migrate to offshoring in India. And I found myself right in the middle of all of this transformation. And so if you think about what companies were doing back in the very early 2000s, it was all about, how can we be more efficient? How can we be more productive? How can we reduce our costs? How can we, keep our customers loyal? Back then, it was, how do you improve customer satisfaction? So, found myself doing a lot of travel back and forth to India. Found myself in the middle of all types of big change with lots of big companies, and so I was very unfortunate in the sense that I was doing a ton of travel, but very fortunate in the sense that I was, right in the middle of it all with some of the world's biggest brands in the middle of their operational transformation. And it was just a very natural progression into, the career that I ended up having at McAfee in the operations world. And as the world of CX really kind of became to get more formalized, again, you happened to be the person that had the most experience doing this, and as a result was selected to lead those efforts. So, listen, the world of formal CX in and of itself is still relatively new. It hasn't been around as a formal practice for that long, and plenty of people are still trying to figure out, the really tough aspects of it, which are how you operationalize this. So
True.
That's a very brief story of how I got to where I am.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing, Jason.
Sure.
Now, Jason, could you share with us a little bit about your organization? It says you're the Executive Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Reputation.com. What does Reputation.com do?
Well, in terms of the world of CX, if you think about how this traditional survey world has evolved, and all the listening posts that that CX practitioners are beginning to collect, it's and listen to and take action on. It's not just surveys anymore. It's social media, it's reviews, it's business listing data, and so I think what we've been able to do is build a platform and an algorithm that really allows our customers to get found, get chosen, and get better through not only, all of the point products that I just named, but really the amalgamation of all that into one platform using one algorithm to really spit out and generate actionable data that allows them to hear what their customers are saying and take action on what they hear. So we're smack dab in the middle of what some would call the CX space and what some others would call the online reputation management space. And so we've actually created our own category, which we now call RXM, for reputation experience management.
All right, reputation experience management. So, when I do customer service training, one of the things that we ask the participants is, what makes them choose one business over another. And usually, you'll have different options. You have price, you have quality of product, quality of service, convenience. Reputation is always one of the options there. What are your views on, just we're in this space now where there's a lot happening globally. A lot of people are some companies are exercising a lot of hibernation. They're not extending much spend because they're very unsure of what the future holds. And because of that, they're really trying to stay afloat. And then you have other organizations that this economy actually is making them thrive, and they are spending, abundantly. In terms of customer experience and reputation, how can an organization ensure that if they had a good reputation, a good brand image in the eyes of their customer pre-COVID, how they can sustain that and even surpass COVID with those customers maintaining their reputation?
Well, it's a great question, and one of the reasons that I really like the name of our company so much is because reputations, brands are built on reputations, and reputations are built on trust. And what's really interesting about today's world, the COVID world, is the implications for how people are going to want to do business moving forward. And, the best predictor of the future is always the past. And so you go back and you look at something as impactful and changeful as 9/11 was for the United States. What did that ultimately change? Well, it actually changed the way that we travel, right? It changed 9/11. If you kind of look how you travel before and how you travel after, it's completely different. And, I could go through all kinds of different, scenarios that have happened between then and now, but this one's different because it impacts everybody the same. Nobody is immune, right? Mm-hmm. Every business, every person is immune, and what is top of mind for every customer literally across the world, it's safety. And so if you're thinking about your brand and you're thinking about your reputation and how others are going to perceive you, I would say that the answer to your question is if you're not focused on making sure that your customers not just only have a great experience in doing business with you, but that they have a safe experience, that they feel safe, that they feel like you're on top of it on their behalf. Those are the companies, at least in the short term, that are going to come ahead and come out on top. And quite frankly, those who don't will get punished. I think you're going to see, anytime you see folks not taking the measures, at least the minimum guidelines to ensure their customer safety, they're going to get punished, and they're going to get punished online, especially with social media and reviews today. So it's a great question, and it's a really interesting situation that we're in today.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I heard you saying just now, very big buzzword in customer experience now, is safety. Even if it wasn't something that organizations had as a priority on their list of delivering a quality experience, it definitely is now, seeing that that's something that you have to incorporate into your business, especially if you are predominantly a face-to-face type of operation. So how do you see organizations really using or capitalizing on this safety thing, because apart from sanitizing and ensuring that, people, their social distance markers on the ground, but people need to know that at the end of the day, you have their best interest at heart and the best interest of your employees, because they can basically pick up if you are just doing it because the government says you are to do it, or you just don't care. You're all about the bottom line.
Yeah, that's a great question. And frankly, that's exactly where we're seeing the explosion is on the employee side. Companies are coming to us in mass and wanting to know, hey, how can you help us understand what our employees think? How can you help us understand how we're doing towards keeping their trust and earning and keeping their trust in these times? And, they're really concerned about, when, hey, we're spending all this money on real estate and nobody's using it. And so how do we make our employees feel comfortable with our policies, and allow them without risk to them and without losing their trust to come back to the office, or at least have some type of hybrid model, going back to the 9/11 example about how it changed the way we travel. This is changing the way that we interact and the way that we work. And the good news, I guess, is that the entire world has learned that you can work via Zoom or Google.
You can work from home, right? And possibly be even more productive.
Possibly. So it's there are interesting dynamics going on for sure.
Amazing. Now, you've been in this reputation spectrum or sphere for quite some time now, Jason. Could you share with us maybe 2 to 3 things that you think an organization or characteristics that an organization needs to embody in order to really have a reputation that is strong where customer experience is concerned?
Yeah, I think that the number one thing is you've got to really create a culture of listening, and then a culture of action. And quite frankly, in my opinion, at least, it's the hardest thing to do when you're talking about operationalization of customer feedback or CX, or however you want to characterize it, right? The absolute hardest thing to do is be a great listener, number one, and then number two, actually take action on what your customers have to say. What I find to be most interesting is how well-intended so many people are when they're listening to customer feedback. And oftentimes what happens is someone will take lots of customer feedback and they'll turn it into an idea that the employee thinks is a good idea to implement on the customer, when in reality, it's just a good idea, but it's not really what the customers want. And so I think that, making sure that you have that rigor and that discipline to not just listen to customers, but actually take action on what you hear, I think is the number one thing to do. And then, but number two, you've got to permeate that into your entire culture and make it a thread of every employee in the company. And so that they feel that they have a vested interest in doing what's right by your customers.
All right. So have a culture of listening and a culture of action. Very important. Very good points. Thank you for sharing, Jason. Now, Jason, could you share with us, how do you stay motivated every day?
Well, I've got lots of employees that are really, really focused on doing right by our customers and creating successful outcomes for them. And one of the funny things, and my employees they laugh at me about it, but we do all hands on a regular basis. And one of the things that I actually do on my Zoom, I have a Zoom TV, and so what I actually do is I go through and I look at all their faces, and I see the commitment that they have to our customers and the commitment that they have to our company, and it really drives me to help put them in the best possible position to win. Number one, so because I think happy employees make happy customers.
Agreed.
And I think the second thing that really keeps us all is that this notion that we are still so young and early in the business. And I happen to have the good fortune of also being in the same position in the world of security, with McAfee, and saw how that grew and changed and really impacted businesses and people's lives. And I think this is no different. You're just at the earlier stages of something that's going to continue to swell and become, just a bigger and more important component of everybody's business world.
Agreed. Good stuff. All right. So, Jason, what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
You know what is so funny about you asking me this question, and it's just true. I actually got off of all social media about a month ago, and I got to be honest with you, I don't miss it one bit. Now, the answer to your question is I do go to Google News every day, and so I read. I do read, the headlines every day, and then there's some stories I'll dig into. But the amount of time that I spend online has diminished rapidly, and the amount of time that I've actually been able to pour into thought leadership has increased exponentially. And so I got to be honest with you, It's been great.
Wow, that's nice. You're doing like a social media detox.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I've got. Listen, I have the good fortune. I've got some family members who are pretty famous online, and as a result, I think a lot of their fans follow me, and so or used to follow me, and so it becomes a distraction,
Mm-hmm.
and so trust me, it was very healthy for me to just put it all down and focus on things that matter, and it's been great.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, Jason, could you share with us maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could have been a book that you read many, many years ago, but it still has an impact on you, or maybe a book that you read recently.
I think that I get asked this question a lot, and it has been the same answer forever. But it was the first book that I read in business school. It's called The Theory of Constraints by Eliyahu Goldratt. It is such a it's such a simple, easy read, and it really creates and just kind of reminds you how simple things really should be, and just to always kind of keep it that way.
Right.
And then I think that so I'd go on the business side. I'd go with that one. I think on the fiction side, I would say either Shogun or Pillars of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Which are both over 1,000 pages, but they're great. And I say that because you should always take time to exercise your creative side, and I think that's really important.
Nice. All right. Now, a lot of our listeners are business owners and managers who feel they have great products and services, but they lack the constantly motivated human capital. If you were sitting across the table from that person, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
Listen. And so number one is listen, and then number two, I think just like anything else, and again at McAfee and other places, I've been fortunate to be in a position where we've done numerous acquisitions, and I could probably easily name 30 that was actively involved in, and you start to see some of the same trends emerge when you're dealing with a massive company like some of the ones that I came from versus an entrepreneur who has really scraped and worked hard to build their business from scratch, and it's so admirable, and I have such respect for the folks that do that. But at the same token, there's the ability to listen and then to delegate and really trust is the thing that I would go back and tell all of those folks that would have been my observation is who are you putting into these roles, who are into these critical roles that are running your company for you, because you can't do it all. No man is an island, or no person is an island, and so it really is true. And so it is all about the people.
Yeah. I like the fact that you said you think the number one thing they should do is listen. Now, how can you improve on your listening skills? It's lovely to say, in theory, I think you should listen more. But let's say the person thinks that, well, I think I'm a good listener. What are some things that they could do, like maybe a listening audit, or is there like a new practice they could embody to really ensure that they're trying to improve on their listening skills?
I almost feel like you were listening into a meeting of mine over the last couple of days, because somebody was asking me that same question, and I said, ask, and again, keep it simple. But look, some people have a great amount of ability to be self-reflective and understand their strengths and weaknesses, and others aren't, and hopefully are good at taking feedback, but at the end of the day, the only way to be able to listen more is to ask more, and then stop, right? And so the question is that I would say is what are the different ways in which you're asking? Because you're asking me questions right now, but you might want to send me questions in written form, at a different time, or you might want to have someone else on your behalf reach out and send me a review, right? And so it's all about making sure that you've got different asking posts. Different asking posts create different listening posts is probably a better way to say it.
Right. Very good. I do agree with you that asking questions will definitely help you to become a better listener. Especially as you said, after you've asked a question, you remain silent and actually pay attention to what the person is saying to you. There's a book that I read at least once per year, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And that's one of the things that I really have taken from that book, that asking questions really helps you to be just more intentional. It helps you to get more information, because generally speaking, I find human beings don't necessarily just volunteer information. So if you really want to know, you have to be asking the right questions.
Well, and I think that, and to make it even more practical, I think the real answer is you actually have to be interested.
Yeah.
And the test that I give, and this is part of anybody that works on my staff, is going to hear me say this, probably more than they probably have nightmares about it. But you got to be a great secondary learner, and and what I mean by that is, are you paying attention to what others are saying and learning from them, regardless of who they are? And so to do that and to be good at that, it requires you to actually be interested. And I got to tell you, if you're not interested, it's going to show,
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Jason, now what's one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
I am actually, I am in the process of building a whole model on business acumen, and directly for my people. I preach a lot to my staff about, it's all about the front lines and empowering them and giving them the tools to be successful. And, one of the things that I've seen just across any company that I've either worked for or, I had the good fortune of going to business school at night, and, but, not everybody can do that. And so I find that it's really important to, when you're helping to develop your employees and your staff, to actually give them tools that are practical and useful that actually help them get better. And so I try to do at least one of those a year. And right now I'm working on one that, goes by industry and actually will help them understand, what are the key metrics for that industry that will allow you to have more meaningful conversations with people instead of, I don't ever want any of our customer success folks to call someone and, hey, I'm just checking in to see how you're doing, right? I want them to be able to, whether it's a healthcare company or an automotive company or a property management company or restaurants, or you name the vertical. I want them to feel prepared, capable, and empowered to have meaningful business conversations with people about the things that matter to them. Not just the things that matter to us. And that's really the essence of being a great listener, is showing them the courtesy and the respect that you have taken the time to learn about their business, number one. But number two, I think it just makes our people better. And I think that makes them, more appreciative of us and more loyal to us over time.
Yeah. That's really good. Awesome. So you're working on a business acumen to help your team so that they can serve your customers better. Really, really love that. Now, I know you said earlier that you're doing a social media detox, but do you exist anywhere online that if, people who listen to this interview would like to connect with you, they can reach out to you?
You could find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, great.
But I do have to do that. But yeah, I don't think that you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook anymore.
Well, LinkedIn is good, so we will definitely we'll have the link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes of this episode.
I wrote some articles. You can go read those and agree or disagree or debate, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that folks might have on those.
Awesome. All right, Jason, before we wrap our interview up with our guests, we always like to ask them, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or any form of obstacle or challenge that you're being faced by, you'll revert to this quote because it kind of helps to keep you back on, put you back on track and just get you refocused? Do you have one of those?
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with adversity, you just put your head down and you go and you keep going, and eventually you'll get through it. But I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation with myself. It's easy to be a great winner. I think the real test of people's character is how they deal with adversity. And and really trudge through and methodically chop wood to get through it and come out the other side even better. So.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule, just hopping on this podcast today with us and sharing all of these great nuggets as it relates to, building a strong reputation and ensuring that, you work in an organization where the leaders care about the employees and they not just, try to implement strategies, but they also listen and they take action and they show interest in you as a human being to identify what are your goals, what are your dreams, your aspirations. It's just the same way they're trying to realize those goals and aspirations for your employees, you're also trying to do the same for your external customers in the best way possible. So it was really a great conversation and I appreciate you coming on today with us.
With you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, and hope to talk to you again sometime soon.
Awesome. So just want to remind our listeners, please feel free to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and hop onto Twitter and follow us at Navigating CX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. Thank you for listening to Navigating the Customer Experience. If you'd like to connect with us even more, please feel free to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And of course, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Navigating CX. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.